22-year sentence coming down for ex-Proud Boys leader and chairman Enrique Tarrio, and he was the last holdout. Remember, the other 4 defendants who were convicted got their sentences last week before the Labor Day holiday. I want to bring in now a friend of the program, legal analyst Andrew Lieb. He joins me to talk about this. Andrew, good to see you. I know we've talked about the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers before, coming up and getting convicted on these seditious conspiracy charges. Andrew, this is the longest sentence so far for any January 6th defendant there, Enrique Tarrio, getting 22 years. Your initial thoughts here?
Well, as the prosecutor said in their opening statements, he's the Lord of War. That's what he was called. And so my initial thought is seditious conspiracy. This is a May decision that they had. The jury decided this. But what's interesting here is that the sentencing guidelines, the federal sentencing guidelines, was 27 to 33 years, Andrew. And this Trump-appointed judge only handed down a sentence of 22 years, 11 years less than the prosecutor asked for. So any way you look at it, it's a balanced decision from this judge on a very, very, very tough conviction of getting seditious conspiracy, which basically means overturning the authority, the legitimacy of these United States, Andrew.
Yeah, of course, and you and I have talked that seditious conspiracy is rarely brought, if ever. It was kind of a statute devised, I think, post-Civil War, if I have my history correct, though. But also, the judge didn't go on the kind of monetary guidelines as well. The maximum fine here was $250,000, Andrew. The judge said no fine for Tarrio. He found that Tarrio cannot pay one. He also, like you said, the downward variance was of 11 years from what the government was seeking, and also there are going to be 36 months of probation once the sentence is concluded here. So a lot of this is being discussed online. A lot of people, are kind of going to their respective political camps and sides. But 22 years is a long time in jail. Of course, his other co-defendants in this, got anywhere from 10 to 15 to almost 20 years in this as well, Andrew.
He's 39, Andrew. He's going to be 61 when he's done with his sentence. So under any stretch of the imagination, it's a long sentence. But we have to look at what he said. I think what he said about this to the judge, he called January 6th a national embarrassment. He said he failed his grandfather, who he's always been a part of. He has a fiance, he said he failed. What Enrique did is he said he wants to have nothing to do with politics anymore when he's done with this, because at the end of the day, it just wasn't worth his freedom, what he was doing. He wasn't even there, Andrew. He was in Baltimore. He wasn't allowed into D.C. He was in a hotel room. This is how serious of a charge this is when you get mixed up in the wrong thing. When you get mixed up into the wrong thing and you get all elevated into it and motivated into it and angry about it. And I think everyone who's thinking about this online and going into their political corner, as you said, should be saying to themselves, is it worth my livelihood? Is it worth my family? What is the story? Even though, as you're pointing out, the sentencing guidelines aren't followed, 27 to 33 years. Federally, it's just something the judge has to take a look at. Judge Kelly just had to take a look at this, Judge Kelly, but he didn't have to follow this. But at the end of the day, under any stretch of the imagination, 61 years old when he's going to get out of jail, this is very serious. And I'll hope people realize that a Trump appointee made the decision. This is the rule of law, Andrew.
Yeah, I just want to kind of go over some of what was said in court today. Jake Gibson, Fox's producer from the Department of Justice, was inside the courtroom. Because I think the question, and I've seen this kind of being raised, is the remorse there? These are very, very lengthy sentences. But just last week when Dominic Pezzola got sentenced, Andrew, on the stand, he was testifying that, he essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, ruined his life and the lives of everyone around him in his orbit. And then when U.S. Marshals took him back and remanded him into custody, he pumped his fist and shouted to the gallery that Trump won. And so you're also seeing similar elements today in court, because the judge said, why did he compare them, the Proud Boys, to the founding fathers. He compared Dominic Pizzola to George Washington. The defense said he was fluffing himself up. The judge then said he should keep George Washington out of it. And you can kind of just sense that the judge has really just ultimate disdain for some of these defendants. But to your point, and I want to go into possible appeal questions, the fact that he wasn't even in Washington at the Capitol the day of January 6th, clearly that was meted out in the trial itself, but can they bring that back up in the appeal process? Do you think that matters, Andrew?
Yes, they can bring it up. No, it doesn't matter. Osama bin Laden wasn't at New York City on 9/11. Lots of people that are considered the mastermind of a criminal conspiracy that are doing this type of thing are not there presently. They're saying he was the leader of the group. They pointed to different text messages and interchanges he had about trying to rile up his group. In fact, Andrew, interestingly enough, they're saying his lieutenants were able to get people even more riled up from the fact that he was not there. So I don't think that's going to be a grounds for appeal. There could be other grounds for appeal. We haven't seen any appellate briefs. I'm sure they'll bring one. But I need to loop back to your prior point. Enrique made a point to the judge. He said, listen, you're not going to hear from me again after the sentence, in reference to that Trump won, I believe, statement from one of his other
2021 are still in prison and have not gone to trial. Reasons vary from, defense attorneys asking for delays to illnesses to defendants firing and replacing their attorneys. So we don't really have a number of how many of these defendants still are sitting in a jail waiting to be tried. Some of our research suggests it's possibly just a handful. The majority of the 1,100 plus arrested and charged have either pleaded guilty or gone to trial. Does that kind of disabuse people of the notion that there are hundreds of January 6 defendants who are just, sitting in a jail cell? They haven't gone to trial yet for whatever reason.
Well, facts are facts are facts are facts. If you're going to count the number of people and it's not hundreds, it's not hundreds. That all being said, no one languishes in jail because you have a constitutional right to a speedy trial. So if the prosecutor is the person delaying, this isn't how we hear about terrorism and people being stuck in a CIA holding in another country. And this are U.S. citizens, and they're in the U.S. criminal justice system, not a military tribunal. They are going to get their right to a speedy trial. And if they push for it, they are going to get the case dismissed if the prosecutor doesn't move forward. It's the right of the defendant not to delay, as we hear in all the Trump cases, what we're hearing with DC and what we're hearing with Florida and what we're hearing with Georgia and what we're hearing with New York and how Trump wants more time. It's just the opposite of what the law is. It's not that you have a right to longer time for trial. It's that you have a right to a speedy trial. That said, as you pointed out, you change your defense attorney. The new attorney is going to need more time. They need to know what's going on. Someone gets sick, you need more time. But really, I think this is a tale of the two-tier justice system in the sense of wealth versus non-wealth. People that are wealthy generally get out and they get released in between when they get arrested and when they go to trial. Some of these people that got onto this train of January 6th and got riled up into it and thought that they were Donald Trump's army. Donald Trump's army. They actually called Enrique Donald Trump's army leader. his private army. When they thought they were doing this, they didn't realize that they didn't have the means to get out and to afford the top attorneys to get out on bail. When we say two-tiered, it's not Democrat versus Republican. It's rich versus poor, and that's just a reality. When you can fund your bail, when you can fund a top-tiered lawyer, when you can fund media and PR, you generally have a better system in the justice system. And unfortunately, for some of these people, it's a travesty, but they just don't have that, Andrew. That's the reality.
All right, Andrew Lieb, we'll leave it at that. We always appreciate your insight into these major legal headlines, criminal headlines, and we'll definitely be bringing you on again. There's going to be a lot of them, of course, with all of the Trump indictments and all of the dates that are very, very difficult to keep track of, admittedly. Andrew, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.